Welcome to the show. I'm Chelsea Reber, joined by Jenny Ligon, the Associate Director of NCTM. If you find this video helpful or interesting, please leave a link below and comment your favorite parts. Jenny, it's so good to be with you today.
Happy to be with you.
Yeah. So, okay, I got to get to the beginning of it all. And I know you've been here for all of it. So what is the story behind NCTM's founding?
Okay, so NCTM stands for the National Center for Therapeutics Manufacturing. We are located at the Texas A&M University, and we're within the Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station. So we're one of several dozen centers that exist within TEAS. That's the acronym for that, for our mother center, mothership, if you will. And we have this is going on our 10th year anniversary, 2022 is, but the building was constructed in 2010, goes way back to an emerging technology fund agreement that was gotten with the state of Texas. And a lot of this was in anticipation for a big project that was coming down the pike in the federal government. And those are called the Centers for Innovation in Advanced Development in Manufacturing, or CADM. Okay. It's an acronym that I coined that actually got taken on because it's just such a long name. But the federal government was looking for these CADMs, whether they be with industry or whether they be academically led like ours is, and basically looking to find entities that would be able to, at the request of the federal government, rapidly respond to mass manufacturing of medical countermeasures, vaccines, other biological products, and that would be in the event of a pandemic outbreak, of a bioterrorism attack. And so A&M went after this giant request, and it was a really, really big ask by the federal government. Well, A&M got awarded it in 2010. We are the only academically led Center for Innovation in Advanced Development and Manufacturing, so that was quite the win for us.
Yeah.
And there were two other centers awarded, and in some capacity they do or really don't exist, but we are still going strong. And so NCTM under TEAS was requested to be the workforce development arm of that CADM.
Okay.
That was the fourth objective. They wanted to make sure that, you have the facilities to manufacture, you have the equipment, you have the staff, obviously, but then there needs to be this capacity to develop the workforce for rapid response. Are you going to be able to maintain this staff for the entire time? Are you going to manufacture other products when it's in downtime and you're not being asked by the federal government to manufacture a medical countermeasure? And so we under TEAS, NCTM worked with 100 subject matter experts, and I'm not even kidding you, literally more than 100 subject matter experts from industry, from academia. We needed to find what this industry needed in the form of training, right? It was very new. It was a new initiative for me. Workforce development is my career, but this industry was very novel to me, 10 years ago. And so we had to just find the right subject matter experts. We had to outfit this facility with the most up-to-date, most cutting-edge bioprocess equipment. We had to bring on a staff to be able to maintain that equipment and be able to help write curricula. And so that was a very long process. It was a good 4 to 5 year process of just finding the right subject matter experts, identifying the curricula that needed to be developed, outfitting the facility, going, oh, this technology is now outdated. What are we doing now? So, right. There was just, it's a very iterative process. So we are very grateful. And I should obviously mention that the federal government sponsor of this project is the Biomedical Advanced Research Development Authority, BARDA.
Okay.
And they're under Health and Human Services.
Okay.
And so BARDA has been very, very, very busy with all the COVID response measures. And we at NCTM are lucky to have been able and called upon through the CADMs to help support a lot of their COVID measures. So,
okay.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah. Well, but it's a long process. Yeah. Like you mentioned, it took a while to get to where you are today. Yes. And obviously there's still a lot of growth ahead of you. But in a nutshell, if somebody's just discussing with you, over drinks, hey, what do you do? What does NCTM do?
Okay, that's going to be a long story. And I'm very passionate about what we do because, we are we're just real popular right now.
Yeah.
Just because of everything that we're doing with the CADM and in response to COVID for workforce development. But in a nutshell, and what we're probably...
You can take as long as you want. It can be bigger than a nutshell. Yeah. No, you're good. I just, to have, for somebody to understand what it is that you guys do.
We are a workforce development center primarily, but we also do applied research to support this industry. Okay. And so let me back up, right? This industry is basically manufacturing drugs from living things, from cells, from mammalian cells or microbial cells, chicken eggs, whatever. Vaccines were traditionally manufactured in chicken eggs, right? And so now this industry is taking on more of an approach to do things in cell lines, in bioreactors, and grow them up and then harvest them and purify them. So it's a brilliant ever-changing industry, and it is changing daily. It really is, and that is the honest to God truth. And so what we do is we, in a very meager attempt, we try to just keep pace. We try to keep pace with what industry's needs are on kind of the workforce development front.
Okay.
A lot of what we do is operator and technician and manufacturing specialist training. So this is basically telling somebody, bachelor's degree or not, maybe an associate degree, maybe they're a military veteran trying to get into a new career field after they leave their service. Teaching them this is what a bioreactor is. And a bioreactor is where you put cells and you add some bubbling broth and you mix it all in and you allow these cells to grow until they can just grow no more. And then you harvest it and you move it to another piece of equipment that's called, a chromatography system or whatever, where you're going to purify all of the parts that you don't need. You're trying to build a specific protein that's going to be your product that you're going to eventually inject, right? And that's going to be the medical unit that they're going to consume, mostly through injection, right? That's what biologics would naturally be, a vaccine or things of that nature. And so a lot of what we do is just supporting workforce development in this industry, technical training for entry-level folks, but we also do professional development. We do, if somebody is kind of maybe they've been in the upstream side, maybe they've been in cell growth and cell culturing, and they want to get into the downstream aspects. We can teach them how to understand what happens after you harvest the cells and you need to purify and all of the many, many steps. And I way oversimplify it, but there's probably 100 unit operations and little tiny steps that it takes to go from your original vial of culture cells that you need to grow up all the way to the other vial when it would be injected. So a lot of what we do is workforce development, but we have a very talented staff of researchers, research scientists, and they all have passions in their area of expertise. Maybe somebody's an expert in cell culturing, maybe somebody is an expert in purification and bioseparations, maybe the analytics, because you're constantly trying to monitor what that cell is doing and keeping it as happy as possible so it can grow to be as happy and healthy and
happy cells.
Happy cells make the most money. But they they have great ideas to revolutionize this industry. And industry approaches us and goes, "Hey, I know you've got multi-million dollars of bioprocess equipment in your facility. And I obviously can't do this scale up project because I'm working in bench scale at this level, but I need to grow it up and I need to make more because I want to get in a clinical trial because this could be a life-saving biologic. This could cure cancer. This could be something for Ebola, And so maybe not Ebola because that's a biosafety level that we don't do.
Yeah. Okay.
But other less harmful variants. But the aspect about taking that research that say faculty at A&M or say a small biotech company is, they want to get it, scale it up. They need to figure out, there's a lot of measurements that go on with trying to take something at small scale and grow it up to be a larger scale. And so our scientists can do that with their eyes shut. They are researchers and they just do it, just through this trial and error in the scientific method. And companies appreciate that because they can't afford big pharma to help do this for them, right?
Gotcha.
And then also too, they're they're researchers and discoverers themselves. And so if they could outsource activities like that, and we refer to that as applied research, we're supporting industry. So in a nutshell, workforce development and applied research to help support small biotech startups, researchers, and not just at A&M, but other institutions like Army Research Labs, and we work with Methodist Hospital and things of that nature. So we are definitely open for business for that sort of activity.
Going back to the workforce development, just to kind of give people an idea, what is one of the shortest trainings that you offer? And then what is one of the longest trainings that you offer?
That is a really good question, and one that we get quite often. So we kind of run the gamut here. What we tried to do, and again, we were very lucky to have been able to work with so many subject matter experts, but there's a lot of material that exists to educate somebody about this industry that you don't have to have hands-on.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be applied, and I don't have to be touching the machine and putting the cells into the machine. A lot of that can be covered online, the theory aspects, right? So we have 6 online courses. The shortest one of those will take you about an hour and a half, 2 hours to complete.
Wow. Okay.
And the online courses are a great opportunity for somebody to go, I want to get into this industry. I want to learn more. And the way that we kind of have our online courses set up is that it's very broad. Like, here's the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, and here's what biologics manufacturing is as the part of the pharmaceutical industry. And so it kind of takes you along the process. You got to understand something that's called current good manufacturing practices, CGMP. It's very, very important in this industry. And basically, it's the FDA's way to tell that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You manufacture this by CGMP. We can trust that what you've reported is accurate, and it's part of the regulatory environment.
Okay.
So we teach about CGMPs. We teach about proper documentation. We teach about kind of the science in this industry, because you have cell biology, you have microbiology, you have biochemistry, like so many sciences. And so even if you do go get a biochemistry degree, you're still going to have to learn an awful lot,
right,
to get into this field too. So a lot of the theory can be taken through the online courses, and those are obviously very cost effective, and because you're not on equipment, you're not using instructors and things of that nature. And then the longest that we have is probably, I would describe our certificate program, which essentially is a series where we take somebody through the online courses, but then we also put them through 2 to 3 weeks of hands-on training.
Okay.
And the reason we cover it in that capacity is because, as I described, there's so many unit operations that are in this industry. And if you want to be as kind of successful in your job search post-training, you want to learn all aspects of it. You want to learn how to grow the cells, harvest the cells, purify the cells, and take it all the way through that line. And so that 2 to 3 week program that we have is called our Advanced Certificate in Biopharmaceutical Manufacturing. And so if somebody goes through that program, it is quite the time commitment, because it is about 100 hours of contact training, you know what I'm trying to say here. And but it is very lucrative, because again, it does allow them to just go, I have training in every single unit operation. So I could either work on the upstream side or downstream side. I could work maybe in process development. And so and then most of our continuing education courses are about 3 days in length.
Okay.
And involve a level of theory and kind of case study based, but also hands-on training. So we run the gamut. We have a catalog of about 18 courses that are off the shelf, and then dozens of customized trainings that we've done for contract training for other organizations out there.
And that kind of leads me into the next question. Who are your clients?
Okay, so we have a variety of programs. I like to say that we kind of run the workforce spectrum necessarily, because a lot of what we do is industry training, just because of COVID has just really just demanded a lot of us with our local community, with Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies, Texas. And so contract training with industry is a big market for us. We work with other pharmaceutical companies that are outside of our region that maybe can't, and don't, if they need to have 100 folks trained, they're not going to send all 100 people to Bryan College Station from Oklahoma City.
Right.
So we do train the trainer, and we're serving industry there. So we've got the industry angle covered there. We also work with Texas A&M in the Masters of Biotechnology program, which is in chemical engineering. And that is a graduate program, and we deliver the labs so that we can get the students to have some applied and hands-on training on actual pilot scale bioprocess equipment. If they want to go work for Fujifilm or Lonza Biologics or Cytovance Biologics, then they have the experience. They've had some applied time on this equipment. So we also had a pretty successful STEM program that we initiated with high schools called BioForce. We served about 800 students over a period of 8 or 9 years, and COVID took it all. We couldn't have minors on campus, so we couldn't run that. But I'm happy to say that we are working with Bryan ISD and College Station ISD. I'm working with a couple of economic development groups in Oklahoma and in North Carolina to share the curricula that we had as part of our BioForce program to put it into high schools. Because a big thing about this industry is that it's just not well known. And students don't recognize, if you ask them what pharmaceuticals or biopharmaceuticals are, they're just going to say that's CVS or Walgreens most of the time. So unless they go through a specialized biotech program at their high school, which not a lot have, so we're sharing that. And then we also serve, as described, on research side, we serve, small startups, researchers, people that need some kind of applied support to be able to scale up to get maybe into clinical trials or preclinical trials and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. I won't venture to say that we can do any of that.
We can get you right in the door.
I know. One thing I do want to clarify is that everything that we do, we're non-GMP, right? Because we can't be, because it's just, we're constantly having people, the students coming in and everything like that. But we do everything as close as possible to CGMP environments. And then, the companies, that is their role and their portion of, say, if there's 100% that you need to do some on-the-job training, what we like to do is maybe get them 50, 75% of the way there. And then that way the company only has to teach them that other 25% about what they do and their own proprietary processes that, that's their trade secret, right? So,
Okay. You've kind of alluded to this, but I do think it's worth repeating. For students or people looking to change their career, are there prerequisites to get into this industry?
I have had people say, for example, that certificate program. I've had people with PhDs and people with high school degrees go through it and be just as successful. I think the benefit of having that online training and particularly just when we were going through the curriculum development process, just going, we don't know what the backgrounds of the people coming into this industry are. So we really need to teach them everything. And so obviously the PhDs may be a little bored with some of the theory of the online courses, but it's still really good information. And it is all precursors to lead up to the hands-on training. So prerequisite wise, there's really not any. I've had veterans with degrees, some that have GEDs, some that just right out of the military service, some that have been out for 20 years, and are wanting to change careers and have put them through the certificate program, put them through technical training, and they've been very competitive in the industry. So would it make your life easier to go through this content if you had your 2-year sciences? Yeah, because some of the terminology is a little high tech, especially understanding the science of the biotherapeutics industry. Our second of the series of online courses, it gets a little granular.
Yeah.
So, but is there any true prerequisites? No.
Okay. Wow, that's great. A ton of opportunity for, and from what it sounds like, for a lot of need in this area. So, well, listen, if you have a friend or a family that might be interested in learning more about biotechnology, make sure to share our videos with them. And you can always get in contact with us as well. Stay tuned. We've got Zivko Nikolov, the Director of NCTM, coming up next to answer some questions. We now welcome in Zivko Nikolov, the Director of NCTM and a professor in the Biological and Agricultural Engineering Department. Zivko, tell me, what are the best benefits of NCTM's facilities and location?
I think this is an excellent question. I would like to start by acknowledging first that we're on Texas A&M campus. That's definitely one of the important benefits. The other is to be actually located under the same roof with the Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies, which helps us in different ways in terms of recognition of the name of National Center of Therapeutic Manufacturing, because this is the name of the building, as well as our ability to communicate really in the hallway with the Fujifilm scientists and engineers. And the third would be actually excellent space, laboratory space, pilot space, and fantastic equipment that we have accumulated or received and built the program around for the past 5 years.
I want both of you to kind of take this question. So Jenny, I'll have you start. How has NCTM been involved with the response to the pandemic?
We have really kind of been put on the map because of COVID. We've been around for 10 years, and this is our 10-year anniversary in 2022. But we had done contract trainings and served markets in the surrounding states and everything. But COVID came along, and Fujifilm Diasynth was requested by the federal government to manufacture a vaccine candidate, a COVID vaccine candidate. And they needed to rapidly ramp up their workforce, and to the tune of several hundred. And, more than 300 people. And they came to us in the spring of 2020 when everything was just, we were all our heads were spinning and we didn't know what was going on even, right? So they said, hey, we need to hire like more than 20 to 30 people every month. And how can you help us? And we're like, well, good news is that we have a lot of off-the-shelf training that we can customize to match what you guys do in-house and pull something together. And so within a matter of 3 weeks, our team of instructors and researchers dug through all of our more than 200 training modules and pulled together a customized 7-day training program for Fujifilm to bring on university graduates and service industry folks and people from other communities. Just bring them on because I don't think it's any big secret, but this workforce does not exist in Bryan College Station.
Right.
So we had to rapidly bring on, put this program together. And then beginning in August of 2020, we just started pumping out a cohort after cohort after cohort of 7-day trainings. And literally it was just no rest for the team. And they got quite exhausted by the end of that year. And then it continued into 2021. And here we are in 2022, and we're continuing to do their onboarding training. So we're bringing on anywhere from 12 to 24 people a month for them. And essentially what we're trying to do is just take a lot of their on-the-job training off their plates.
Okay.
Because they really need people that can understand that environment and hit the ground running.
Right.
So that was one of the initiatives that we did to help respond to the pandemic.
And there is a bad news, quote unquote, to that.
Why is that?
Actually, the bad news is exactly at the same time we received a call to help producing the first COVID proteins.
That's right.
And that was exactly the same time, April 2020. We got in touch with a collaborator from Army Research Lab and colleagues from UT who wanted us to scale up and develop the process and scale up the COVID protein. And I think that both Jenny and I, the whole team, we struggled to tell you. We heard what Jenny described, how we had to prepare all the different classes and the modules. And with only 3 scientists actively being involved in training, we suddenly accepted a project of a scale-up which required additional 3 or 4 people, which we did hire, but it took us 3 to 4 months to figure out how we're going to do it. So we had in parallel process development, purification, development of COVID proteins, as well as developing the quality training for Fujifilm.
So you had a lot on your plate at one time. Well, Zivko, what are the biggest challenges that you've faced since you've grown the center?
This is a very good question. I think that Jenny and I will have to share the experience. I think one of the main challenges that I faced, we faced as a group, is really having directors every 2 years, a new director. And that was all the way through 2017. I was associate director since 2012, and I was present when we had 3 or 4 new directors. And that was the biggest challenge because there was no continuity. in the development, problems with following the vision that some of us had. And I would let Jenny comment on it because she was from the very beginning the part that I really missed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's humble because, again, as he was associate director since our inception, but he has been a very solid driving force of leadership, of guidance, of calm. And has luckily, we were so gracious that he joined us as director in 2017, and we've just been so successful in the past 5 years, and I think it's because of his leadership. So, but yes, consistent leadership is obviously any entity's most important factor, right? But let's be honest, the industry can pay a heck of a lot more than we can for our staff. And so when a big pharmaceutical company is in your backyard and you've trained up the people so great, because by the way, they're the trainers of the student, they're pretty attractive. So we've had some turnover on staff, and I'm not going to name any companies' names that have, but luckily we do have a great team, and you know what, in a way, it's a source of pride.
Absolutely.
For our staff to be as appealing to big pharma. So that.
And you're in the market of training people, so you got your new people coming on, and you're ready to go.
That's right.
Yeah, but no, that like you said, it's a testament to what you guys are doing here. So that's incredible. If you're interested in doing work with NCTM, you can email us at the address below, and we'll see what we can do to fill your needs. Zivko, what's your best success story? I love these success stories. Let's go back 3 years. So within the last 3 years, and especially with what you guys have been talking about, the pandemic and everything going on, what success story do you have?
I think I would like to point out to the COVID-19 protein success story. And that in different ways. First, that we brought new members to the team with quite a bit of experience. I'm talking about 3 new members of 4, probably about 60 years of experience, who helped us really in the past 3 years to succeed. And the whole process of developing the purification and working with the colleagues from Texas A&M, Houston Methodist Hospital, and Army Research Lab, that kind of lifted first our spirits and, of course, altogether promoted NCTM as a place where you can have research and development conducted besides, training.
Mm-hmm. Jenny, what about you? Is there another success story that you'd like to share that you guys have had recently?
Well, I mean, if we're talking the past 3 years, I think it's COVID land, right? So I would clearly say, just our response. We were part of Operation Warp Speed. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
To be able to say, yeah, we trained some of the workforce that was going to be mass manufacturing, millions of doses of this new vaccine candidate. And, I think I'm just so proud of our team because they, again, on top of all of the training, and that is demanding because just because you have a 7-day training and then 3 days off and then you start another 7-day training, that you don't have any downtime.
Right.
You're constantly preparing and you're in the labs, you're cleaning, you're prepping, you're preparing media, you're getting the equipment maintained and calibrated. And so the team, I'm just proud that everybody stuck with us because that was really brutal. It was really brutal. And we are so proud of the team that we have. And I just think we've told you, just about our inception and the fact that we were, invested in heavily by the federal government. And it was because this demand was not being met.
Right.
It's not, industry isn't out there meeting this demand. This had this major gap of having ready vaccines in the event of a medical emergency or a bioterror incident, And so just being able to say that we had curricula ready to go. We had the equipment in place. We had the skilled staff in place. And so, we're pretty proud of what we've done.
It was kind of like a fire drill, but there was an actual fire and you guys passed the test.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
That's incredible. Zivko, where do you want to see NCTM in the next 5 years?
This is a very good question. I think it's clear by now from our conversation that we excel in training, in the workforce development. We are well recognized for the success, and we will continue to succeed in the training and delivering quality training to our community and beyond. When I mention our community, that would be also an idea that we should go beyond our borders. And that will be a very interesting and challenging project for us. I'm talking about international. The other place where I think we should continue to improve, obviously, is delivering more research and development to contribute to research and development in the area of biomanufacturing. Currently, we are approximately 20-80, talking about 20% R&D and 80% training, workforce training. I think I would like to be very realistic. I think we can go up to 30-40% R&D, and then the rest will be training. The important things. The important point of participating in research and development is that adds quality to our training program. We need to follow the developments in the biomanufacturing, which is actually changing, I don't want to say daily, but let's say monthly in terms of new products, new methods for processing, and we need to follow that trend in both novel ideas, novel techniques, methods, as well as requirements for training therapeutics personnel.
Well, Jenny, what else would you like viewers to know about after all of this excellent information that we've gotten today so far?
Well, I think the big thing is that when you meet our team and talk to Zivko or I, there's no project that's too big for us. There's really not. The sky is the limit. I think, when Zivko does say that we would like to get into international markets, if we can work with a university next, in the state next to us or up in the Northeast or on the West Coast, if we can collaborate with them, then we can collaborate in Africa. We can help them have massive, vaccine manufacturing capacities so that they can serve their nation, So I think absolutely, in that realm. And I would venture to say that maybe we would get to a 50-50, 50% workforce, 50% research, because
I didn't want to offend you.
we just have such great, brilliant minds on our team, and there's just so much to be discovered. I mean, the sky is really the limit. So I think you can sense my passion. NCTM is very near and dear to both Zivko and our team. So we welcome your challenge. So email us. No problem is too big for us.
Zivko, is there anything else you'd like to add today?
No, I'd just like to support what Jenny mentioned, and again to reiterate the importance of what we are contributing here, as a group and as a team, and looking forward to the next episodes. I'm talking about a year or two from now, we'll be able to share our success.
Yeah, definitely. Zivko Nikolov, Director of NCTM and Professor in the Biological and Agriculture Engineering Department. Thank you so much for being on today.
Welcome.
And Jenny Ligon, also with NCTM. You can learn more about our available trainings by visiting our website at nctm.tamu.edu or by viewing our Facebook page. And didn't find a course that fits exactly what you're looking for? That's all right. Check back regularly to catch new courses. I'm Chelsea Reber. Thanks for tuning in.